Up next, what is the current state of Pakistan's pharma industry and its export potential? Well, we're going to find out from Group Managing Director and CEO of Martin Dow Group, Javed Ghulam Mohammad.
Assalamu alaikum and good morning to everyone. Before the presentation is ready, I just like to say thanks to the organizing committee of Pharma Summit here, Harun Qasim Saab, Kaisar Saab, Asad Saab, Bukhari Saab, Ahmed Saab, and everybody here for organizing this event, and really like to welcome all of you who are participating here. So my presentation today will cover two parts. The first one is more about the challenges that the pharmaceutical industry is currently facing and the opportunities that we have. And the second part will be focusing on the export potential. Actually, the main purpose of this summit is to focus on export. So we are going to talk about the current state of Pakistan's pharmaceutical industry and export potential here. Going to cover the global pharma market, the evolution of Pakistan pharmaceutical market, the spending by the government on the healthcare here, Pakistan and some comparison with the regional markets that we have, the current challenges, the export potential, and then followed by the global expansion strategy. If you look at the global market, the global pharmaceutical market is approximately $1.48 trillion, and it is growing at the rate of 5%. And if you look at the trend of the global market for the last 10 years, so we will witness that it is growing in the range of same 4 to 5%. And from 2019 till 2027, along with the forecast that we have, the cumulative average growth rate of the pharmaceutical global market will be somewhere around 5.4%. Now, this is the regional divide of the global pharmaceutical market. You all have a lot of experience of working with the pharmaceutical industry. If you look at this kind of chart 10 years ago, we'll see the major market was dominated by the North America, followed by Europe, and then Japanese market. But now this trend is changing. If you look at the forecast of 2027 now, the North America is going to contribute around 43% of the total market, and the growth rate is coming at around 5%. Whereas rest of the world, where Pakistan falls under the rest of the world, this market has now 25% and is growing at 7.7%. And the second biggest growth that you can see is in Brazil, Russia, and India, which is one of the blocs that is very popular these days and is one of the fastest growing economy of the world now. So it's growing at the rate of 9.3%. So although the major market is still being dominated by North America, but considering the growth rate, if you look at the next 10 years, this shift will change, and the rest of the world and the growing economies like Brazil, Russia, and India, and hopefully Pakistan, will also contribute to the global pharmaceutical industry. Now we look at the pharmaceutical market of Pakistan. On an average, we are growing around 12 to 14% in Pak rupees. So which is a very healthy growth, because if you look at the world market, it's growing at the rate of 5%. But if you look at the local pharmaceutical market, is almost like double, more than double of the world global market. But in terms of US dollar, it was $3 billion in 2019. And if you look at 2023 now, we are still at $3.1 billion. So there has been no growth in terms of dollars because of the major devaluation our currency is facing. So our contribution to the global pharmaceutical industry is not changing. Around 2019, the global pharmaceutical market was in the range of around $1.1 to $1.2 trillion. Our market share was same, which was $3 billion. And the market has moved to $1.5 trillion, but we still are $3 billion. So because of the major devaluation, Pakistan pharmaceutical industry is not really contributing significantly to the world global market. Then this is a little bit analysis, if you can see, comparing Pakistan with some same kind of markets like Bangladesh, Philippines, and Indonesia. The Pakistan market is 3.1, Bangladesh is $3 billion, Philippines is $4.2 billion with a population of just 100 million people. Indonesia is $10 billion. Total number of pharma companies operating in Pakistan is 650. In Bangladesh, there are only 270 pharmaceutical companies. In Philippines is 400 and Indonesia is 240. The population of Pakistan is 231 million, but I'm sure it's much more than that. And the Bangladesh is 170, Philippines is 114, and Indonesia is 274. So average market share per company, if we see, Pakistan is 4.7 as compared to all other markets, and per capita pharmaceutical market size of Pakistan is only $13.5. As compared, Bangladesh is now much better than us, which is 17.6, and Philippines and Indonesia is far ahead. So considering the population base that we have, the market share should have been much bigger. But unfortunately, our market is still very small. And what are the two main reasons that we can see is that one is the accessibility of the medicine is very limited in Pakistan. There has not been much spending by the government on the healthcare. Second is the pricing in Pakistan is one of the lowest in the world. So maybe in terms of volume, we are better, but in terms of pricing, if you look at the per capita pharmaceutical market, we are one of the lowest in the world. I think if we compare it with few African countries, they may be lower than us. Otherwise, if you look at the regional market, our situation is very, very low. And when we talk about the healthcare expenditure as a percentage of GDP, in Pakistan, we started in 2016, it was 0.7% of the GDP, and now it's somewhere around 1.1% of the GDP. And we compare it with the regional countries here. We have Bangladesh, we have India, we have Indonesia, Malaysia, and Philippines. So Pakistan is 1.1% of GDP, Bangladesh is 2.63%, India is 2.96%, Indonesia is 3.41, Malaysia 4.12, Philippines is 5.6, and Singapore is 6%. So we have one of the, lowest spending of the percent of GDP on the health sector. So this is one of the reasons that why the pharmaceutical market is not flourishing in Pakistan, because the support that we expect coming from the government is not there. And you have witnessed, or you all have witnessed everything that recently we have seen a lot of changes in the health sector here. The major hospitals has been taken care by NGOs now. So if you see the way the Indus Hospital is flourishing, we can see the SIUT is coming up. So this is the job of the government, but it has been taken over by the NGOs. So we really don't see that a seriousness of the government is coming towards this sector. It's not only pharmaceutical, because health sector covers a lot of things. It includes hospitals, includes diagnostics, includes so many other things. But we cannot see any real focus or progress in this area. And if you look at the regional comparison, what we have done is that healthcare expenditure is one of the lowest in the region, is 38.16 is Pakistan. And if you look at the Philippines, is 193, Malaysia is 418. So there is really no comparison. We really don't have the focus on the healthcare sector in this country. What are the challenges that we are facing? We all have been witnessing, we have been reading the newspapers, is all covered in the media, and the PPMA level and the Pharma Bureau level, we have been making a lot of noise level, is that the inflation in this country is almost like 30%. I was looking at the top 50 economies of the world in Bloomberg, and you see the Pakistan inflation is one of the highest among the top 50 economies. Only we can compare it with Turkey and Egypt, which are in the same range of inflation, but Pakistan has one of the highest among the top 50 economies of the world in terms of inflation. The interest rate, we all know, is 23% now, Kaibor is, and we have been hearing that it will go to around 25%. And if you look at the spread which the commercial banks are charging, which is 1.5 to 2%, the effective interest rate in this country for working capital financing or to do any kind of investment is somewhere around 25%. So if you're putting any investment in the country, your ROI should at least be 50% so that you can cover up your financial charges, your debt servicing. And it is very difficult to have an ROI of 50% on any project, by the way. Then rising energy cost, we all know about it. Devaluation of Pak rupees is more than 60% from January 2022. It was 285 and from 176 to a US dollar. So 60% devaluation. And we know that pharmaceutical industry is heavily dependent on imported active pharmaceutical ingredients, packaging materials, and excipients are all imported. So there has been a significant increase in cost because of this massive devaluation. And we really don't know where this devaluation is going to end. Every time there is a news coming, some agencies are giving a projection that this will go to 350, 325. So as a pharmaceutical industry, as a businessman, it's very difficult to do any kind of planning or projection in this country is that what will happen in 24 and 25. Whether we should be committing any major capital expenditure or not, we are not sure about it. Then there is another super tax that has been imposed because the people who are already paying taxes, they have been asked to pay more taxes now. Instead of putting taxes on real estate, agriculture, and traders, the government is doing is that putting more and more taxes on the existing taxpayers. So there is another term which is called super tax that we need to pay. So overall tax incidence for a pharmaceutical industry or by any industry is more than 40%, and by any standard is one of the highest in the world. And then inconsistent tax policies, the refund status, withdrawal of sales tax. Previously sales tax was 0.88, now 1% sales tax on API and 1% sales tax on sales that we need to do that. And after all these factors, the price adjustment that we have received after a lot of efforts of Pharma Bureau and PPMA, all the members sitting here, we got hardly 14% for essential drugs and 20% for non-essential drugs. And this 14% and 20% is also inclusive of annual price adjustment of 2023, which was 7% and 10% has been incorporated in this. So the incremental increase is we have received only 7% and 10%. And by any standard, considering that these cost factors is not being able enough to cover the cost that we have witnessing right now. And plus there are a lot of hardship cases. Now, what are hardship cases? Because if you look at the formula, the products which are either doing a break-even or incurring losses will qualify for the hardship cases. And when we submit the hardship cases, they compare it with the regional markets. So you have to be the lowest among the regional countries, and you have to make sure that you are incurring losses. That's why you qualify in the hardship cases. And you trust me, there are more than 500 outstanding hardship cases with the DRAP right now. So you can understand that 500 molecules are either at loss or doing hardly break even. So this is the kind of a situation that industry is currently facing. Now, as a result, what is happening? So this is a very interesting analysis. I want everybody to really focus on this. But this is companies A, B, C, and D. These are the real companies that we have picked from the stock exchange. Due to some reason, we cannot really take the name of those companies, although the information which is here is in the public domain and everybody can access that. And this comprises of both multinational and local companies. So if you look at 2022, the company A, Q1, earning per share was 2.9 rupees per share. In 2023, it went down to 1.35, which is a reduction of 53%. Company B, reduction of 115% in earning per share. Company C, 70% reduction. And company D is now in losses. It used to be 22.76 per share earning, as now 37.03 loss per share, which is a reduction of 266%. So if you have this kind of cost increase, this kind of inflation, this kind of devaluation, and your price adjustment is hardly 14%, this is the result that we are facing right now. I am only talking about the companies which are listed on the stock exchange, but I am sure this is a story for every pharmaceutical company sitting here. Now, look what is happening here. If you look at India and Bangladesh, so this is a comparison on the left side, which is India and then Bangladesh here. There are 3 companies from there, and this is also a real data. And their earning per share is increasing 4.6%, 26%, and 108% in India, whereas in Bangladesh, 10%, minus 2.43, and 6%. And we say that Bangladesh, as India, has so many USFD approved and MHRA approved plants. Yes, they can, because they can invest. They are making profits, they can retain profit, and they can reinvest. When you are making losses, you cannot really do the investment or upgradation of your plant and machinery. USFD approved plants, how many have in India? 665. MHRA is 170. In Bangladesh is 5 and 6. Regional companies have made substantial advancement, and we are still struggling to survive at a local level. Now, what is the proposed solution we have? Because we have been talking about the problem here. Now, first of all, we need to deregulate our pricing apart from few essential items which are already mentioned in the WHO list, whereas all the other products must be deregulated, and it should be based on the market dynamics and the demand and supply basis. Their prices should not be controlled or governed by the government. Second one is there has to be an investment benefit for upgradation of pharmaceutical plants and quality systems. Because if you want to export your products to the regulated markets of the world, you really have to upgrade your plant, machinery, quality systems. And this investment is in the range of around 2 to 3 billion rupees easily. And we need to have some kind of investment benefit, some kind of funding plans coming from the government. Because if you pay 25% interest rate and you do all this kind of investment, then really you don't have enough room to do the big investment here. Then the quick resolution of the pending hardship cases. We need to classify pharmaceutical goods as a 0 rated versus current scenario of 1% tax. 1% central research fund, which is 1% of the pre-tax profit that we contribute to the government, and we really don't know what is happening to that central research fund, should be given to the industry, should be waived off, and we should be investing on the R&D. Then sales tax, a super tax, as the current tax incidence is already very high, must be abolished. And the final one, I'm going to talk a little bit about the export here. I'm sure there are many other speakers are talking about export. In export that we have 2 areas, one is product and second is services. Because we always been talking about the export of pharmaceutical product, we never focus on the pharmaceutical services, which also has a great potential for export. Now, we talk about the markets here. You all have seen this presentation. The rest of the world, Brazil, China, Europe. So there is a big market outside Pakistan. We are only sitting at 3 billion, and if we keep focusing on this segment, which is highly fragmented segment, 650 pharmaceutical companies, there's a ruthless competition here. So we really have to focus and diversify our operation to international markets. This is a little bit one slide, which is a roadmap that how we should be getting into the international business. First of all, we need to focus on upgradation of our plants to international standards like PSES or EMEA or USFDA, which definitely requires a lot of investment, the time, the team, the technical skills, the expertise. We'll be needing that. And once we do the upgradation, the plant and machinery is not enough, because we have seen many companies invested on the plant, but later on they don't have the product dossiers to file in those countries. So what happens is that you have invested in plant, but you don't have the range of product that you can offer to international markets. So your robust formulation development is equally important as your plant upgradation. And those product formulation must be bioequivalent, and we should have the bioequivalent centers in Pakistan. Then we should be very careful about the patent protection, understanding of the intellectual property, because international markets are different. Pakistan is not very strict in terms of patent enforcement, but if you go to the international market, you need to be very, very careful. If you invest heavily in any dossier, and later you came to know that the patent will expire after 5 years, all your investment will go to waste. So you have to make sure that your patents are expiring, and you will be the first or the second or the first 10 to enter those markets. then you need to have a strong partnerships with your partners. Right now in Pakistan, APIs are not registered with DRAP, but you go to any regulated markets of the world, your API will be registered along with the dossier. You cannot use any API unless and until that API is registered with the regulatory body. So if you don't have a proper strategic partnership with those API suppliers, you'll have a serious concern with the supply chain at a later stage. Accordingly, you need to have a distributors, you need to have your business partner, trade channels. Every market is different, and you need to have a good understanding of those markets before you plan to invest in those areas. Then business modeling is also important. Not every market will be where you can set up your own sales team or your own marketing team. There are a few markets where you can go through partners. There are a few markets where you have to go through government agencies. There are a few markets which are very, very tender focused. Government tenders are very big markets there. So you need to understand each market before you make a decision of your international business or export. Now, second is because we have been focusing on the pharmaceutical export when we talk about the products from here, but we never talk about the services that we can do. Because if your plants are already approved by PICS or FDA or EMEA or MHRA, then you don't have to invest every time on the dossier formulation, because any dossier formulation on an average will cost you somewhere around $500,000 to $1 million, including bioequivalence study, if you do it properly. So instead of investing on the dossiers and the products, what we can do is that we can offer our services as a contract manufacturing to several companies. Because if you go to Europe, there are virtual companies having a revenue of more than $1 billion, and they don't have their own manufacturing facility. They don't have their own research facility. They outsource their research, they outsource their manufacturing, and India, China, there are so many other countries are offering contract manufacturing to those European and American companies. So this is the way forward, that with low investment on the dossiers, you can still generate a good export revenue through contract manufacturing and contract research. Approximately 30% of the manufacturing is outsourced in developed market. 30% is a big number. This rate is accelerating, by the way. This is a little bit analysis of what is the CMO market and what is the CRO market. CRO is contract research and CMO is contract manufacturing. So we'll see $116 billion is a contract manufacturing market, and $57 billion is a contract research. And we are not offering any services. This is the final slide. This is the recommendation that how to enhance our export. I think first of all, we need to have an independent authority who can facilitate pharmaceutical export, who can understand the need of export and what exactly is required. Because if you look at Bangladesh, they have a separate authority who is really helping the industry to generate the important foreign exchange. Then we need to have a bioequivalence centers in the country. We don't have a single bioequivalence center which is approved by any international body. And on an average, we need to pay around $60,000 to $100,000 per dossier for the bioequivalence study. Now, financing facility for upgradation. We cannot continue paying 25% interest rate and investing on the plant and machinery. We cannot ensure any kind of ROI based on this debt servicing. Then increase export retention, because in IT industry, recently the government has introduced 50% retention of the export proceeds. But here, where we do a lot of branding of our products in international market, we are hardly allowed to retain 15%. And 15% is not enough to cover any expenses of the international market. So it should be increased to 50% for the next 3 years. And there has to be a flexibility at the level of remittance with the state bank. So thank you very much. Thanks a lot for your patience, for your understanding. Thank you.